All right, so I'm Devlin, and it's my fault, sorry. Yeah. So what I want to talk about today was leveraging third-party tools. Now this means a lot of things, and there's a lot of ways I could take it, so hopefully I went the right direction, okay? So inside of Canvas, we actually use a lot of new tools and a lot of technology. Either we provide some tools, or there's a lot of tools that we just incorporate and integrate with instead of building our own, okay? Only if it doesn't suffice do we actually do it ourselves. So I actually have a slide that's supposed to kind of explain this, and I even left in the old logo so you know how old it was, okay? And the reason for that was just that this is something fundamental to our philosophy, what we call our open architecture. And there's a couple of things that we do with that, okay? So traditionally with an LMS, it was a walled garden. Everything was inside the LMS. If you didn't go inside the LMS, you couldn't get any data. You know, didn't talk to any other systems or anything like that. And that was something that, you know, that the web has shown that you can, you know, the best applications are those that are highly focused, highly usable, and that they share and that talk to other systems. And so that was supposed to be us on the right, you know, like our notification preferences and, you know, how we, you know, essentially we trivially integrate with anything on the web. Okay, so in a couple of different ways, you know, like when you turn in an assignment, it doesn't have to be a file, it can actually be a URL. So anything you can view in a web browser can be a learning activity. Okay, so anywhere the web goes, Canvas already goes there, right? And that's a good horse to hitch a ride on, right? What? Hitch to your wagon. You get the point. Okay, so there's a couple parts with the open architecture and integrations. So we do a lot of integrations, but one thing that we wanted to focus on was that we didn't want all the innovation to have to come from Instructure. And so part of that is our open source strategy that people can look at our code. It's actually really cool to get, if someone's having an issue with the system, and actually send us a link to the code that they think is wrong. I don't know, I think that's really cool. And so we want people to have control of their own destinies, so the open source goes a long way with that, but we also wanted to be this platform where other tools can integrate in without even asking us or getting our permission, okay? So there's these other systems, and they're going to be integrated. So that's kind of the approach I've taken today is how can other tools integrate with Canvas, kind of some of the caveats with it, and put in a point, this is not just for other vendors, is that there are things that are specific to campuses that aren't necessarily shareable across all customers. So this is a way that even an institution can build on top of Canvas. Okay, so the main points of integration come down to identity and authorization, and then actually the actual transport protocol. This is the actual mechanism for the integration. All right, now I did my master's degree was in distributed authentication systems and identity. So I really like this stuff. Okay, so let me talk about a few things. So, do you guys are familiar with single sign-on? Okay, so give me some examples of single sign-on, and Corey, you can't answer. Huh? Google. Okay, Google. OpenID. Actually, those are the same thing. Okay. Microsoft has a few things, right? They have some federation services. LDAP. Okay, I'm going to question that one. Is LDAP a true single sign-on? Okay, so we get into some murky thing. Okay, so part of this is this is my definition of single sign-on. This is that your user logs into site A, and when they go to site B, they're already logged in. Okay. Now this is the key though, is that and vice versa. It means if I go to site B, and then I go to site A, then I'll be logged in too. All right, now that's single sign-on. Okay, now LDAP actually fails the test. So LDAP is actually a same credential everywhere. You can just use the same username and password everywhere, but you go to the other site, you actually still have to log in again. Okay, so it's still better than nothing, but not quite a true single sign-on. Okay, now I'm going to explain this next kind of concept because some of the industry standard protocols are going to use this. This is what I call a directional single sign-on. What that means is that when you log into site A, then if you go to site B, then you can already be logged in. But you cannot go to site B and get back to site A. All right? Now this is still useful, but you always have to start with site A, and you have to go through that sequence. So it's not a true federated single sign-on. Okay, so some examples of some federated single sign-on is CAS, SAML 2.0, Shibboleth. You can have it in the LAN and like using Kerberos. You have to trick OpenID to do it, but it can be done. And the same way you can trick OpenID, you can trick OAuth to kind of do it, almost. Okay? Now, okay, so with this single sign-on, I want to talk about integration. Now, if Site A is your LMS and Site B is some other tool that you're trying to integrate with your LMS, if you have a single sign-on protocol, then the identity portion is already taken care of for you. Okay, so that means that Site B has the same identity as A, and then it can just ask for information and then add on to the protocol because it already knows who the user is. All right? Problem is that if they're not using any type of identity, then Site B has a completely separate account. They don't know who you are. Okay, so that's why one the first part of an integration is the identity component. Okay. Now, so this does work too, and we'll see how that works. Now, there are three main API endpoints into Canvas. The middle one is actually going to be talked about tomorrow by our engineer John, and so I'll just talk a little bit about it. Okay, so the first one is what we call our SS, or our bulk enrollment API. Now you can find all this information out here on GitHub. Okay, so has anyone been to this page? All right, very cool. Okay, this page is actually all the source code to run Canvas. And when we open, anyone can get the source code and tweak it and whatnot. Okay. Now in here, then we have some instructions, and one of these is our API documentation, and this is how our API works. Now this is our RESTful API, and if you go into the SIS imports portion of it, then we explain this. This is our bulk enrollment API, or how an SIS or any other system that wants to act like an SIS can integrate with our system. All right. Now we have. Essentially, we've created a very simple file format, and I'll review this really quick. We just call it our import format, and it's so simple that you can actually create this by hand using like something like Excel, because it's just a flat comma-separated value file. That's what the CSV means here. Okay, and essentially, each one of these, like users and accounts, is just a directive to tell the system to create something or to remove something. Okay, so I'll even show you here on like a user. So to create a user, you create a user CSV. For you tech guys, it actually doesn't matter what you name the file, because we actually look at the headers inside the file to determine which one it is. So you can have multiple ones if that's easier to generate. We give an example here, and then we describe each field. So you have a user ID, login ID, what their password is if you're not using a single sign-on protocol. First name, last name, email, and then if their status is active or deleted. Okay, so if you send a single file with a single line in it like this one, then we will create a user dynamically for you. Okay, so this is how you have complete control over all the courses, all the users, enrollments, types of enrollments, even the terms, and the parent roles and everything with that. So you can just bash all these up in these huge files, and then you just push it using HTTP into our system, and then we follow it. Is it processed as an add update? By default, it is, because this allows real time. Because you just send the changes, and you just send them as frequently as you get them, and then it will update it. Now, there is a batch mode, which says that, batch mode says, here's a data file that I'm giving you, and make my system look exactly like the data file. So if it's not in my data file, then I want you to remove it. Okay, so that's what batch means to us. You have to send everything with a batch. Otherwise, we will remove it. Okay, and yes.
So, make sure I understand this right. So you do the CSV files, you HTTP them to somewhere. How is that associated with an user's account?
Okay, so the question was so you have a CSV and the transport protocol is HTTP. How do you know that it's associated with your account? Right? Is because anything that you push into the system has to be authenticated. You have to have an identity inside of Canvas in order to have the authority to push this update into the system. So I would recommend that you create a fake administrator account just for integrations. So don't use your account, because then it's tied in with your login and everything. Create a separate admin login, and then use its credentials and all your scripts to actually push the data in. Okay, question here. Is it dangerous to send it over HTTP? It's not if it's over SSL, so I guess just say HTTPS, but it's harder to say, so yes. Yeah, every single request that comes to and from Canvas is over HTTPS. Yep. Okay. Was that another hand? We good? Okay, so back here is that, you know, with the main APIs, is that essentially the first one is enrollment. Okay, so this is how your SIS, if you can get flat text files out of your SIS system, you can integrate with Canvas. Okay, if you have a shopping cart and you want students to sign up for courses, well, just have it generate flat text files and push it into Canvas and you can auto-enroll them.
What SIS information is resident in Canvas?
What SIS information is resident? Like which?
After you do the import that you're talking about, what remains in Canvas from a security point of view that's resident in Canvas that I may not want to be there?
Okay, so what information that you push into us stays in there is actually just the data that you push in. We don't need any other extraneous information. Okay, so you saw like the profile information wasn't involved in that. It's actually just strictly user accounts, courses, like short names, availability, enrollments, you know, that sort of thing.
Does that include user password?
You can with user password, but that's not the preferred way to do it. The best way is to do a real single sign-on protocol, and so they don't have to create a separate account. But you can have us be the password. Now, the caveat with there is that we actually do not store the password as plain text, and so we cannot give you the password back because we actually don't store. We store a password verifier. Thank you. Okay, I want to show you the. Yeah. Okay. Now the RESTful JSON is the one that John's going to talk about, and I'll show you real quick. Is that this is kind of one of the things it looks like is that you can have access after courses have been created, and you can actually get inside of the courses themselves. So here, for a specific user account, you can actually ask the system to give a list of all the courses that the user is enrolled in. You can get all the assignments inside of that course that they're enrolled in. And the assignments includes the grading criteria, the rubrics, any of the learning outcomes associated with that, even the assignment groups, right? So that's like quizzes, homeworks, and whatnot. And then the submissions API, okay? So if you guys have seen our iPad speed grader, we actually use no secret sauce. Our mobile applications don't use any API that is not publicly documented and available. Okay, so anything you see our applications do, you can do yourselves. Any other system can do it too. Right? So I am going to actually invoke the API in front of your eyes. All right, are you guys ready? Okay, so I'm going to look here. So this is using HTTPS. And so I see like I do a get on the /API, you know, the version 1, because we version our API, and then courses.json. And JSON is a file format that's very lightweight, similar to XML. Okay? And so I'm actually going to log. Actually, I'm just going to go over here. Okay. Just going to go back to Canvas. Okay. And hopefully the, oh, yep, good. Okay. So you see I'm logged in, and now when I come over here, oh, sorry, you're not supposed to see that. Dang it. Gosh, dang it. I lost my, Anyway, that was going to be great in the recording. Right here, I went to Canvas, Instructure.com, all right. And then I went /API in my browser. My browser did an HTTPS GET, okay? And it returned a list of all the courses that I am enrolled in a very simple machine-readable format. So I can see I get an array, and the first course is called Wildcat Country. And I'm enrolled as a teacher, and this is the course code, and this is internal identifier. Okay? Does that make sense? See, so then we talked about the transport protocol in the integration. Is that you know, a lot of web services use something, you know, like SOAP or something very heavyweight. Is that, you know, web services you know, at the internet scale use HTTP, and so with that, then I can go back into. I can go ask for an assignment, and you see the assignment has this, and it goes API, and it has a course ID in there. Okay. So coming back here, okay, remember the course ID 160, okay? Okay, so then I just stick that in there. And I'm going to replace that with, what am I supposed to remember? 160. All right, and here is all of the assignments out of that course. Okay, so this is pulling all the data. You can pull it out into an external tool, and you can actually push this data to create assignments outside of our tool too.
So essentially, I can leverage our portal to just grab data for the student to a dashboard on that first page.
Yes, so the question was, can you use this facility to grab data specifically for like a user? The answer is yes, but you have to get the authorization of the user to do so, right? Or use a...
So it's just a tool for the user.
Say again?
So like the user logs into our portal, and let's say they want, something, some object in your API, like what's due today or what's due this week. We could just issue the GET request in the background using the user's credentials.
That's right. Yeah, there's a little bit of nuance. He was talking about pulling at like the recent things and putting it into like a portal. The nuance there is that if it's a single sign-on, then you actually don't have to do any identity component because it's already taken care of for you. If you don't, then you would need to either get an authorization token, which actually we can generate right here, right? An access token here, or administrator account, or you actually just subscribe to an unguessable RSS feed of that exact same thing. It's similar to a cookie. It's a bearer token. Yep. Question over here. Can you put something into every course space? The answer is yes. Yes, if you have permission to get into a course, then you can use the API to create assignments, to create content, pull out anything you want. You can actually, okay? Because that's making sense? All right? Okay, now the other part is I want to talk really quickly about since we're running out of time here, is the third part is, okay, so this is a way that you can authorize another tool to access data out of Canvas, manipulate it, and then push it back in, or to create anything, or orchestrate it completely remotely without even using our interface. Okay? Now the second part is that sometimes you will need another tool where you need to know the identity of the user. Okay? So let's say, for example, a course evaluation tool. Okay, now course evaluation, what do you need to know? You need to know who's doing the evaluation, and you know for what course. Actually, that's the only data that you actually need, right? Okay, so there is an industry standard protocol being formalized by the IMS consortium called Basic LTI. And the idea is that this is a protocol that can be adhered to with multiple LMS systems, that you can create a tool that will interoperate with a bunch of different LMS systems or any other learning tool, okay? So this is called the Basic LTI. Okay, so LTI stands for Learning Tool Interoperability. So it's not just for LMS systems. And so what does this mean by a tool? Okay, a tool. I'm glad you guys got that joke. Okay, a tool is not a building block, is that we don't run the code for you. Okay, this is not a building block. You give us code and then we run it for you. We're in the cloud, and the code that we run is for all of our clients. So this is a web application completely external to Canvas that is accessible over HTTP or HTTPS. Okay. And so, and there's two main types of LTI. There's basic LTI, and then there's LTI in the version 1.0. Version 1.0 is not done yet. It's not released as a specification. Basic LTI is just for the identity piece. You remember that One Direction identity where you're logged in here and you click on a link and it would take you to the other site and you're already logged in? That is what basic LTI provides, and just that. It launches you into another tool and asserts who you are and the course that you came from. LTI, when it's done, is it's actually going to allow for runtime services for that tool to reach back into the LMS to like report back grades and events and registration and tool capability and whatnot. Okay. Okay. This is the diagram from IMS site. I didn't understand it, so I made my own. Okay. Okay. So I put in like some of their. Okay, so I know you guys aren't like techie and geeks, but this will allow you to be conversational. So in the vocabulary of LTI, which is learning tool, oh, you guys are awesome. Okay, so Canvas here as an LMS is a consumer of an external tool that is going to provide additional functionality. So it is the consumer. Okay, and the tool is actually a tool provider. It's the actual application that's adding on to us. So actually, in the first part, that up above that horizontal line, is that it has to be registered. So you have to say, okay, point to point, you say, okay, Canvas, I want you to talk to this external tool. And so I would call that like you register the tool so you can use it. In LTI, they call that a deployment of a tool. Okay? And it's essentially just a shared secret. And thank you. Okay, got to run. And it can be done either by the administrator or the instructor. And I'll show you exactly where you can do this. Okay? So inside, either in an account or even in a course. All right, I'm running out of time. Is that you can create an external tool, and here's a bunch of them in here, and I can add another one. I can just give it a name, and then I just put in the shared secret. There's a way that when we send the user over, we're going to sign it with a cryptographic signature, so that on the other side, the tool know that the assertion came from us and not someone pretending to be us. All right, so I can set this up, and then we use it inside of our course modules. All right, now coming back here really fast is that you would include the link in right here, include the link in your course modules, and then when anyone clicked on it, then we would send them to the other tool and we would add in the URL, all this information about them. So we send over their user ID, what course that they're coming from, the name of the course, the name of the user, depending on which property setting of how much data you want us to send. Okay, and then on the other side, they're already logged in and they just create an account on the fly. Okay, and that is called a tool launch, or when you invoke the tool. Okay, now to show you some examples is Dr. Chuck and Bracken have set up some basic LTI examples inside of a course. This is in a module, and so I'm just going to open some tabs here, if that's cool. Okay, let me get rid of some of these. Okay. Okay, so in this IMS example, see we embed this external tool inside of Canvas, so it maintains the correct interface and whatnot, and then you can see all of the different pieces of data that is sent over. So my username is the Devlin. This is my user image, and my email and whatnot, and how is it certain what course I came from. Okay, so this one is interesting because it's just showing the data of it. Maybe a more interesting one might be a specific math assessment engine. Okay, so I'll let it detect my settings here really quickly. And then I'll go into a demo. Okay, and so now we've added on a specific math-specific assessment engine inside of Canvas. And so I can, pick certain things, and I can submit those and see, I got it right. That's awesome. I am awesome. Okay, so you see this is an external tool. It didn't have to ask permission of Canvas or call me up on the phone and say, hey Devlin, is this okay? Because they're adding on external to our system. And because we're supporting open standards, then we will send the identity over. And you can extend Canvas even without needing us. Okay, so innovation can happen outside of Instructure as well. Okay, question?
If that tool wants to send data back, is that something built into LTI or does it have to be?
Okay, so the question is that if the tool wants to send data back, is that built into LTI? It is built into the full LTI, which is not done yet, and it uses SOAP. So right now is that most applications you can use a combination of the two. So you would use basic LTI to send a user out to the remote tool, and then you can use the Canvas API to write scores back into the gradebook. Okay, so some other examples really quick. Here is Dr. Chuck Fork Khan Academy, or even his WordPress blog. Okay, so he in his WordPress blog, then the login accepts a basic LTI. So now I am logged in to Dr. Chuck's blog, and I can comment on it without having to create an account. Okay, because it's asserting my identity. The exact same thing here with the Khan Academy. Okay. And so the idea here is that it is an open system, these third-party tools. It's not just other vendors, but specific things on your campus that you do, that just you do. So for example, let's brainstorm if we think this is possible. I'm running out of time, aren't I? Dang it, I'm over. Okay, so like for some examples here is that you could use this, like for a chemistry-specific assessment engine, right? You could use the basic LTI to do an attendance tool. Because we'll send you out as the teacher, and then he can take attendance or she can take attendance, and then you can use the Canvas API to create an assignment that is either complete or incomplete and actually write all the scores back into Canvas. right? And you can have it shaped like that. Or if you wanted to have something where they can sign up to go out to lunch with a professor, right? Like the professor says, I'm going to go out to lunch. I can take just five students. You could create a tool that all it does is that one little thing. So I talked about in kind of the panel is that you can innovate with the specific, your contribution. You don't have to recreate the entire LMS platform because Canvas is an open platform. Okay, any real questions real quick? I meant to say any questions real quick. Sorry. It's been a long day. It was still valid English. Okay, any questions real quick, or you can come see me afterwards. Awesome, thank you.